Well, if you've been watching this show since the election, it'll be no surprise to you that I believe that the Liberal and National Party coalition was or is not a nice, happy, unified, broad church of different but compatible ideas and policies, as John Howard used to like to say. It was or is, in my view, a divided into Frankenstein party, and that is why they lost. A lot of people disagree with me on that, including our two guests that we'll be talking to in a moment, but it's not perfectly divided along country versus city lines or Nationals versus Liberals, but it generally is. The real division, though, is two very different and distinct market segments, two groups. The centre-left to centre so-called moderates and the centre-right to right so-called conservatives. And as I argued in episode 410 2 weeks ago after the election disaster, in 2025 modern Australia, I think these are completely incompatible groups. This is a delicious carton of chocolate milk, great for an energy and protein boost. And this is a nice kombucha drink with great health benefits. This one is preferred by rugged working class Australians, tradies, farmers, people who live on the land or in the suburbs, the real people who make the country tick, the engine of Australia. And yes, more men than women do prefer that. And this product is preferred by inner city types, people who have sedentary jobs and don't want too much sugar in their diets and who don't need as much protein as dairy provides. They're hardworking too, but they have to spend most of their day using their brains while sitting at laptops. They're knowledge workers and they want good gut health to keep their brains working. And yes, more women than men will go for the kombucha. So both are good products and have their own market niche to fill. The centre right-wing political parties do need to fight the Teals for the inner city seats and appeal to centre left-leaning university-educated women and immigrants. But they can't do that if they also want to win over the centre right-leaning working-class people and classical liberal small business people and libertarians and conservatives in regional and rural Australia. Not to mention conservative and libertarian immigrants who hate big government control and who came here to escape that in their homelands. The coalition keeps losing time and time and time again because they're trying to sell an unsellable Frankenstein product. Peter Dutton, trying to look soft and flexible, just ends up looking weak and unfocused. Look what happens when I do this. Cheers. Oh, God. These two products, ladies and gentlemen, are different and they do not belong in the same glass. They are incompatible. They are not two products in the same category filling some kind of broad church of products. They are just simply not similar enough to be mixed without becoming far less than the sum of their parts and therefore unmarketable and unsellable. Okay, apologies for the cute analogy, but you get the point. Now, as I said, the two products don't neatly fit the Nationals and the Liberals. Both have their own Frankenstein problems inside their own party ranks. But if the two parties were to split, it would solve some of this problem. It's the sensible way to split things organisationally, and it would enable a kind of general alignment of the centre-right and right with the Nats and the centre-left and left with the Libs. This will mean they can publicly disagree on policy without damaging each other's brands. They can run candidates against each other in every seat and, God forbid, let you decide the outcome. They can swap preferences and they can form government in coalition later. The idea of a coalition in opposition is kind of weird anyway. This is one of those times that I firmly disagree with John Howard, who was all over the media decrying the Nationals' move on Tuesday night. And a current affair, we're happy to tell you what you're supposed to think right from the start of the interview, of course.
So, Mr. Howard, just when we thought it couldn't get any worse for Conservative politics, it does. What are they doing to the partnership that you are so proud of?
Well, I don't think it will last forever, but it's a stupid move. And it's better together. Again and again, we've demonstrated that our glory days are when we work together. So I would say to both the parties, remember that. And if you've got policy differences, which inevitably you have, resolve them.
Mr. Howard, I believe, is wrong. This is 2025. Australia is very different. Politics is split down the middle, and much more polarised these days than it used to be. And this is not just about policy differences. It's cultural, it's values-based, it's contradictory positions on fundamental issues. In 2025, they're simply not better together. They're weaker together. The whole is not greater than the sum of its parts. It's less than the sum of its parts for all the reasons I described in my chocolate milk kombucha analogy. Joining me in the studio is former Queensland Premier Campbell NEWMAN, and FREYA LEACH is joining us from the Menzies Research Centre online from Sydney. FREYA, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you.
Now, I get a feeling I'm going to get a bit of a lashing probably from both of you on this one. We'll start with you, FREYA. Can the coalition survive with two very different groups within it, or would it be better to have a Conservative Party and a moderate Liberal Party as separate entities, do you think?
Well, I'm not so convinced that the difference is primarily between the two parties. I think there are also plenty of differences between Liberals within the Liberal Party and also Nationals within the National Party. And that's just at a federal level, not to mention the differences and idiosyncrasies between them at the state levels as well. So I'm not convinced that you could ever achieve something like a simple split as you propose. And so I really think the only way forward is for them to reunite together. The other factor is that voters won't vote for a divided group. It has, for better or worse, been cemented in the minds of voters that we are a coalition, and you can't just easily break that and then expect people to still vote for you. You'll look like the divided toddlers that can't get along. And so I think they have to come back together. I also think it'll be a terrible waste of resources running National Party and Liberal Party candidates in every electorate. And ultimately, there is more that unites both parties than divides them. And I think the core principles of smaller government, lower taxes, equal opportunity, like those are all universal values that both parties can get behind. I think they just need to, do the review of the last election, reevaluate policies, but then ultimately they have to come together, because I don't see a realistic way forward for them as two separate parties. And then that's not even to mention what happens if you have national parties speaking out against Liberal policies and vice versa. It's just going to create this really shambolic political situation. And to be honest, it's going to be a massive gift to Labor.
Okay, there is that argument. Campbell, I know you're a coalitionist. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, look, I totally agree with FREYA, and I agree with John Howard. But I firstly take you back to what Robert Menzies said, I think in about 1944 it was, when they gathered in northern Victoria near Albury-Wodonga to actually form the Liberal Party. And he said at the time, there was some speech I remember reading where he said, look, we have been fighting from our respective parties for many years and we haven't worked together. And we need to cut. Basically what he was saying is we've got to come together to win elections. And that's what needs to happen. And the lesson of quite a few decades of here in Queensland of when, you had the Bjelke-Petersen National Party government, the Liberals there for a while, and then splitting and all the stuff that went on there. Then there was the years in the wilderness, with particularly when Peter Beattie sort of held supreme. And, you had these two warring parties fighting each other, and exactly as FREYA said. And look, I'm not advocating, by the way, for an LNP writ large. I think you're right to the extent there are unique brand positioning differences, but they do have to. But the coalition is important. That coming together, working as a team, particularly to fight elections, critically important. And if you want to know
you guys have both put your case, and I think that's fair enough. And I like getting scolded occasionally. But I'm going to just clarify my argument. You were a bit nice. I'm going to much nicer than you were off air. But I want to make the distinction between what I'm not saying. There's necessarily a split between the Liberals and the Nationals. What I'm arguing for is a split between that Australia needs a Conservative Party that's speaking to the outer suburbs of the cities, to the working class Conservatives, to country Australia, to regional Australia, to rural Australia. And then we need a party that can speak to the inner cities, because they're very different. I mean, I worked on an inner city campaign. FREYA, I know you ran, didn't you, in Balmain, I think, wasn't it, for the state election in New South Wales? Campbell, you know all about it, what it's like running in cities versus country. the question is broader than let's take it away from the coalition, whether it's a question of Liberal or National split. Do we need two separate products in the market that can go their own way and say...
We need leadership, and we need leadership and the right policies. And I'll defer to Freya very quickly here. But, okay, personal example, as the Liberal Lord Mayor in 2004 of Brisbane, you know, we successfully won that first election, won big in 2008, and Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner, who's there today, that's 20 years of Liberal/LNP leadership in the city of Brisbane, and yet the city supposedly, slanted left wing these days. What's he doing right? What did I do right? What did Graham Quirk do right?
Well, what did you do?
Well, I think it's because it's about tailoring. It's about taking the principles of the party, which Freya just mentioned, and tailoring the policies and the programs to deal with that, and actually unashamedly being, slightly left wing in the interpretation of those. It's like, we were big in terms of trying to help deal with homelessness, for example, and we were very green in terms of greening the city and environmental policies and sustainability.
Okay, Freya, what's your take on it?
The reason the Liberal Party has been one of the most successful political parties in the Anglosphere in the last 200 years has been because we're the stewards of John Stuart Mill's liberalism and also Edmund Burke's conservatism. And that is at the heart of the party. It's those dual philosophies of liberalism and conservatism. And those two philosophies speak to the inner cities, but then also to outer suburban Australia. And when you can get the balance right between those, emphasizing different ones more in different areas depending on their values and priorities, that's when we succeed. That is Howard's broad church. But I think you're exactly right, Campbell. The problem at the last election was not we moved too left. It's not that we moved too right. It was that we didn't move anywhere at all. What was the vision? What was the narrative? What was the plan for Australia? Half our MPs couldn't even tell you what our policies were. How did we expect the public to do that? So that is the ultimate issue. It's a lack of vision and courageous, bold policy that is serious enough to meet the challenges confronting Australia. If we can get back to that, then we will be successful.
They just elected the wrong leaders. So Canavan would have been a superior choice for the Nationals. I can't see him doing what Littleproud's just done, which is just outrageous. And as for Susan Lee, I don't think she's up to the job. I wasn't particularly happy with the alternative too, but I think he'd have done a more workmanlike job, and I don't think this would have happened. Lack of leadership has just given us this debacle. Sorry.
All right. Well, Freya, go ahead. I'll give you the last word on this topic. What is it? What's your view on this? And Susan Lee, is she going to be strong enough, or is she classic sort of Liberal left?
I think I really want her to succeed. I think, and you've got to think as well, the optics, if she doesn't, are going to be a lot worse for us. There will be accusations that our women problem is really bad and we've thrown her off the glass cliff, is what people will say. So I really hope that Susan succeeds, and I hope that she has good people around her advising her. But I think ultimately it's all about leadership, and it's about having a genuine vision for Australia and managing to reconcile Burke's conservatism with Mill's liberalism. And that's when we will be at our best. And so I don't think we should shy away from, having conservative views on social issues, nor should we shy away from being economically liberal. And it's about how you tailor your messaging in different areas. And I agree that migrants should be super pro-liberal because we're the patriotic party and they came to Australia for a reason. They're small business oriented, they're family focused. So there's a lot of opportunity for us still. But I think it all comes down to leadership and also credibility. Think of the last election. Ultimately, voters just didn't trust us to actually deliver on what we were promising. And so we have to reestablish that trust with Australians. Otherwise, it's really hard to see how this is going to end.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. We will come back in a moment with some different topics to discuss. Joining me today on the other side, former Queensland Premier Campbell Newman and FREYA LEACH from the Menzies Research Centre in Sydney. I want to tell you about a fantastic initiative that's happening out of Canberra right now. It's called the Awards for Men in Leadership. The awards are given out on International Men's Day, which is November 19. They're designed to combat the increasing denigration of masculinity in our culture and the widespread discrimination against males inside and outside the workplace. The goal is to lift the well-being of boys and men and facilitate healthy collaboration between men and women. The awards for men in leadership are designed to inspire men to make a bigger contribution to family and community and to elevate positive male role models. There's a $10,000 scholarship for studies and professional development, public recognition for the winners, and a year of mentorship and executive coaching for each recipient. It's targeted at young men and middle-aged guys who fought their way up from some other kind of disadvantage. This is the third year of the awards and it'll be the biggest yet. To find out more, just search up the Awards for Men in Leadership on Facebook. That was a segment from a recent episode of our fortnightly news commentary show, The Other Side, with me, Damian Curry. If you liked it, support us. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube right now so you don't miss a thing. It's totally free. Just click that subscribe button and the little bell. And check out our Other Side Unplugged show too, and join our mission to actually do something and change Aussie media for the better at othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Check it out now.